Craig Smoak.
You know, there's guys that we know in the business, a bunch. We bring on writers, analysts, talk show hosts, columnists, and others all the time. But watching the media in Oklahoma chasing down post-Lincoln Riley has been entertaining. We've been there. And Jason Kersey, who probably hasn't slept in a week, joins us. TheAthletic.com covers Oklahoma. Have you ever been through the stretch you've been through the last 6 to 8 days, Jason?
No, definitely not. You know, covering Oklahoma, you sort of expect that it's going to be one, because it has been one of the most stable programs in college football for many years. Bob Stoops, even when Bob Stoops stepped down, he very seamlessly handed things over to Lincoln Riley and kept the staff intact. There's been very few of these sorts of searches, actually none of these sorts of searches since the late 90s. And I have not been on the OU beat since the late 90s. So it's been a little bit of an adjustment for me, but it's been stressful, but it's also been kind of fun at times.
So Jeff Levy and that addition to his staff, I saw where Matt Corral actually retweeted Chris Lowe on getting Jeff Levy. They got the best one in the game. How important was that to nail the offensive coordinator position with Levy?
It was really important. They needed to hire somebody exciting, somebody that would continue the momentum of offensive recruiting that OU has experienced under Lincoln Riley. And also they needed to hire someone, frankly, that will entice Caleb Williams to stay in Norman. Keeping Caleb Williams, I know your people down in Waco probably didn't see the best version of Caleb Williams, but he is one of the most exciting young quarterbacks in the game. And keeping him is critical for Oklahoma. He attracts other recruits. The players love to play with him. He showed flashes of being one of the most exciting young quarterbacks in college football. They've already lost Spencer Rattler to the transfer portal. They can't afford to lose Caleb Williams. And I think a hire of Levy's ilk will perhaps help with that.
Not that this would make Oklahoma feel better, but if they did, would that not put them maybe squarely in position for Dylan Gabriel from UCF, who Jeff Levy did coach while he was there?
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly a possibility. If Williams was to leave, I think that would be possible. Obviously, if Williams stays, I don't think Dylan Gabriel would probably be interested in Oklahoma. But yeah, that's certainly an option, but it's not a guarantee. And so I think they're going to want to try to keep Caleb if they can.
So, Jason, it was fun to watch Oklahoma fans going through the coaching search process. You know, every rumor, every flight tracker, everything like that. It's Brent Venables when all is said and done. Your thoughts on the process, kind of how it played out, and ultimately the choice for OU's next head coach?
Well, it's kind of funny because Brent Venables was kind of the obvious choice in many ways. And as the week went on and as the search continued and as it took a while to get done, I think that made a lot of people wonder, well, is it Brent Venables? Because he did seem sort of obvious early on. And so I think that Joe Castiglione was going through his process, trying to do it the right way, trying to make sure he talked to multiple candidates. But at the end of the day, Venables was the first choice, and that's who they got. I think it's a good hire. I mean, Brent is familiar with Oklahoma. He worked many years under Bob Stoops, obviously went off to Clemson and became arguably I don't even know if it's arguably, certainly one of, if not the best defensive coordinators in college football. Clemson's defense has been absolutely dominant. They've won 2 national championships while he's been there. And so absolutely, I think that it was a solid hire. I think that, he could bring back a toughness to Oklahoma that has perhaps been missing the last few years. We've already seen one of his hires he's made is Jerry Schmidt, who was a legendary strength coach at Oklahoma, who Lincoln Riley replaced when he became head coach. Jerry Schmidt, a tough guy, really puts players through the ringer, but makes them tough. And Brent Venables will be bringing him back from Texas A&M. I think it's an interesting hire. Brent Venables has been one of the best assistant coaches in college football for many, many years, has turned down other head coaching opportunities, has been very patient. And now at age 50, he finally found one that intrigued him enough to jump.
Yeah, there's been a little bit of that when Lincoln Riley took over for Bob Stoops. I'm sure people just thought he would just put it in cruise control, but he did his own thing, and he has the right to do that with Schmidt and then even with the others. Do you feel like Venables is putting the band back together in a way that is more comfortable for Oklahoma, even though Riley had great success, or not?
I mean, it's sort of a hybrid. He is bringing back Jerry Schmidt, obviously, but then he's also retaining a lot of the staff that Lincoln Riley had offensively. It looks like most of the offensive staff will be retained. So I think that will certainly help with recruiting, because obviously the coaching change, particularly in the era of the early signing period, sort of throws all of that into chaos, and it certainly has to some degree at Oklahoma. The Sooners have lost several commitments in the last few days. It seems like maybe the bleeding has been stopped, but certainly could be more. I think they only have 12 or 13 2022 commitments right now, and that's 1 week before signing day, so they got a lot of work to do. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he fills out the defensive staff, because that's where we don't really have a lot of clues right now, is where he intends to go on that side of the ball.
How are they going to fill out outside of Bob Stoops, with all the coaches coming and going there right now, the bowl game staff? Yeah.
It's a great question, and honestly, I don't know the answer right now. Bob Stoops became the interim coach. Then he had to go do his Fox deal for the Big Ten Championship. Then he's been out in Las Vegas the last couple of days for his induction into the College Football Hall of Fame. So it's not like OU players are taking finals this week. So it's not like there's really been a whole lot of opportunity for us to ask him about that, because they haven't been practicing. But so I think it's going to be very interesting to see how that happens, because I wouldn't expect any of the new coaches that are hired to coach the bowl game. But maybe, like I said, the offensive coaches that are going to be retained, I assume they'll coach the bowl game. I assume some analysts, some graduate assistants will step into those roles. They have some guys on staff who potentially could do that. And there's always the chance, too, that some of these guys on the defensive side who may not be retained, or who may end up in Los Angeles with Lincoln Riley, may decide to stay on through the bowl game. I don't know how that's going to work out. That is one thing I'm very interested to see, because honestly, this is, again, I know this probably sounds crazy to fans who have been through coaching searches. I know Baylor's been through coaching searches, Texas. A lot of your listeners are probably think that I sound ridiculous right now talking about this, but honestly, I don't know how this is going to play out, because I've just never seen it happen here before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good thing. We're like so used to it at this point that it's just like it's nothing. But I saw where Brian Asamoah announced that he is going to be skipping the bowl game, entering the draft. I know Nick Bonito had announced that, as well as Perry and Winfrey. Are those the only three at this point to make that type of an announcement? And just your thoughts on those three going through and making it official?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. Oklahoma has traditionally these last few years, as bowl opt-outs have become more common, they've been playing in the playoffs, so guys haven't really had the incentive to opt out. Last year, there was one guy who opted out of the bowl game, the Cotton Bowl, which was not a playoff bowl for Oklahoma. Trey Brown opted out and decided to go ahead and prepare for the NFL. I expected there to be a few. I think there still could be a few more. These are three of OU's best defensive players: Brian Asamoah, Nick Bonito, and Perry Winfrey. So it's so weird, because this bowl game is so bizarre. We're talking about a bowl game with two interim coaches, coaching staffs in upheaval, and these are two programs that started the season expecting to be in the college football playoff, particularly Oregon after they beat Ohio State. I think everybody thought that they were going to potentially be in the playoff. And as it turns out, neither of these teams won their conferences. And now they're playing in this bowl game, which, no offense to the Alamo Bowl, but that's certainly not where these two teams thought they would be. Mm-hmm. They have interim coaches. They have potentially interim assistant coaches. They have a bunch of players opting out. It's going to be kind of a bizarre bowl game to cover, to be honest, guys.
Yeah, Jason, there's no question. When you haven't been through something like this, and it's like, whoa, and it was such a smooth transition with Lincoln Riley from Stoops. Yeah, it's more like the 90s, I guess, for a little bit with all the, the Schnellenberger, John Blake, and then finally with Bob Stoops. So it wasn't the
those are names we don't speak of around here.
I'm just kidding.
I'm just kidding.
And John Blank is no longer with us either. But at the same time, Jason, they did not have the elite year, which is what the standard is at Oklahoma, and we saw a little bit of why. They had the close at the end, gut-wrenching loss to Oklahoma State, and as you know, they got handled pretty easily by Baylor, just 27-13, but Baylor dominated that game in a lot of ways.
And then Lincoln Riley split right after.
Yeah, and they're not slipping. I don't think Oklahoma slips, but they got to get that back quickly, right? You want to make sure you don't get into some dead zone as you get closer and closer to whenever that year is they join the SEC.
Absolutely, that's critical. I mean, because we still don't know when that move is going to happen. It certainly isn't going to be next year. They're still going to be in the Big 12 next year, but after that, they could potentially make that move, and they want to be at their best when they make that move, because the days of, frankly, if you're Oklahoma, the days of a 10-win season being your down year are over in the SEC. If you have a down year in the SEC, you're going 8-4, you're going 6-6. And look, the crazy thing about this season for Oklahoma, guys, if you look at their schedule, if you look at the games that they won, some of these games, they are only a handful of plays away from being 7-5.
Right.
And I'm not exaggerating.
Oh, yeah.
They almost lost at home to Tulane. They almost lost to Nebraska. They almost lost to West Virginia. They almost lost to Texas. And they played footsie with Kansas for most of that game. So, I mean, you're talking about all of a sudden losing 6 games was not completely out of the realm of possibility for this team. And I've wondered, I've actually had this conversation with some people. What would OU's record have been this year in the SEC? Probably wouldn't have been 10-2.
No, definitely not. Yeah, definitely. That's a good question. Absolutely.
How hard was this? You hear about the transition to the SEC, but obviously that inspired the remaining 8, and I'm not sure that's why they played better or harder. Oklahoma State's damn good, Baylor's damn good, and a couple of others as well. Did you feel like it was a grind this year after the announcement back in late July?
I'm sorry, for just a second I lost you. I'm so sorry. Can you repeat that? I apologize.
No, that's okay. Oklahoma State and Baylor are 2 damn good teams. Oklahoma was very good.
Sure.
But after the announcement in late July, did you get the sense that it was an uphill climb a little bit emotionally with what they dealt with during the year? Was it a hard climb for them?
That's a really good question, and to be honest, I don't really know if I can answer it. I think that certainly road crowds were a little bit harder on them. I believe, and this season has been such a blur, and the last 2 weeks have fried my brain. But I believe the Baylor fans were chanting SEC at them during that game. Pretty sure Oklahoma State fans did the same thing. And other fans. I think I remember Kansas State went during that close game. That was another game I didn't even mention. That is one of the close games they survived this year. I think that perhaps that was part of it. But at the same time, this was an Oklahoma team that was supposed to finally be the team that Lincoln Riley could win a playoff game with. Think back to July, the Big 12 media days. Lincoln Riley opens his press conference by saying, good to be in our second home here. Very brash statement, but true. They had won the Big 12 6 years in a row. Jeremiah Hall, senior H-back and team captain, said at Big 12 media days, everything we do has to be with the national championship on our minds. This is a team that was supposed to be built. The defense was finally supposed to be good enough to compete in the playoff. We expected Spencer Rattler to win the Heisman Trophy and perhaps be the number 1 overall draft pick. They brought back Kennedy Brooks at running back. They brought back a whole lot of really talented, highly rated receivers. And then it just fell flat. And nobody has really been able to explain why that is. All season, what Lincoln Riley said was some version of, we're really close. You guys can't see it. But
we got relatives up in Norman. I kept telling, I was like, I don't know what's going on, but something just feels off. And I can't explain it, but something just feels off. And then, 3 weeks later, Lincoln Riley's going to USC. And I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe that was part of the deal there.
Yeah. I mean, look, I don't know personally when those conversations with USC started. I know there's a lot of people who in Oklahoma who now sort of suspect that maybe Lincoln's agent was talking to USC much earlier than what he has let on, and that maybe that was on his mind. I don't know. That's a really, really hard thing to know. And it's something that Lincoln will if it's true, he would never admit it. And you're sort of just going off gut. I can't really tell you if that's true or not. I just know something was off. Something was wrong with this offense this year in a way that I've never seen it, certainly since Lincoln has been at Oklahoma.
You know what's off, Jason? Your sleep habits. So get yourself a little bit of time. I know that it was fun to kind of watch you guys, Eddie, you, and among others, tracking down the planes but thanks for your time. I know it's been busy. It's still busy because much more to come as well.
Well, Smokey, thank you for having me, and I'm sorry that I wasn't able to come on earlier in the week. It's just been a really, really busy week. I'm glad I was able to make time.
No, I'm glad you did. We're glad to have you, and it's a perfect day with the Levy news, among others as well. Thanks for your time. Jason Kersey covers Oklahoma for theathletic.com with us on a busy week in Norman.
Yeah, I mean, something did feel off. It really did, and I could never quite put my finger on it either. I know some people have now just jumped to the conclusion, like, well, it had to have been Lincoln, his agent talking behind the scenes at points. And, you remember the mysterious press conference that he missed, like, randomly, like a week or two?
Gary Lewis just put that on the chat room, yeah.
Oh, did he? Okay, yeah. I mean, that was bizarre, and we never quite – remember, it was like a personal issue, and it never kind of went past that point. But you kind of look back now and you go – that was pretty random for him to just miss a weekly press conference and be back. I don't know. That was odd, but you didn't have a reason at the time to start really looking too much into it. And, that was just – I mean, what was more surprising, the OU Texas SEC news or Lincoln Riley to USC news? I think they're pretty on par.
They were both earth-shattering.
Yeah.
Not earth-shattering, but both of them were huge stories. There's no question. And then, just like a battering ram of big stories in college sports.
The fact that he missed that media thing and then came and said, like, I didn't know anything until Sunday. Well, like, maybe specifically you didn't know anything, but to me, I mean, I've never believed that from Lincoln Riley, that you went to bed mad that you lost the Big 12 title game, and then – or, like, in the process of that, before you went to bed, like, hey, you want to be the coach at USC? Yeah, why not? I mean, I don't think that's how that goes.
Well, and the way that they played against Baylor, I mean, that did not seem like a team that was – and I'm not taking anything away from Baylor's win, because they've hardly had any against Oklahoma. So wins all that matters, and plus, as we've seen, Baylor's a very good team. But, just something felt kind of off that day too. I mean, just for such a prolific offense. I know Baylor's defense is really good, but like Oklahoma's offense could do nothing, and it was almost like they hadn't even game planned or something. And I just found that I don't know. I walked away from that game with kind of a weird feeling, much like the weird feeling just kind of all year that Jason's referring to. And I know that some of my relatives have kind of felt the same way at times. Of just something's off. What is off? Can't figure it out. Well, now we see where we are now, and so whatever it was, it's time to turn the page and get right, and we'll see if Brent Venables can do that.
All right, when we come back, John Machota, Cowboys are back, and perfect timing for a game in which they have a 2-game lead in the division over Washington, and yet, Washington's on this 4-game streak, and about everything the Cowboys needed to get healthy, cleared from COVID, including their head coach, among others, and Randy Gregory. It looks like they're going to be about as healthy as they could possibly be going into this week, and they need to be because they haven't played well in over a month, it seems. I don't remember the Atlanta game when they thrashed the Falcons. But that's next. John Machota, theathletic.com. Sick 'em, 365 Radio, 365 Sports.